If the idea of having a solid financial management process for your business sounds like an amazing idea, then this video is for you. My name is Candace, and at Books by Access, we provide bookkeeping, accounting, and CFO advisory services. Although that sounds like a mouthful, what we really do is we use financial information to help business owners make sound decisions. We want our clients to have the insights and the data they need to back up the decisions that they're making. Easy enough. Today, we're going to talk about three really important things needed to have that sound financial management process. So number one is accounting software. You need accounting software. Now, I love Excel. Excel is a very powerful tool. It allows you to make lists and calculations and kind of lay and chart out data in a really robust way. However, as amazing as Excel is, it's very, very manual, and manual means time. So we want to save time because we already don't have a good process in place. So we're not going to make a process that isn't as automated as absolutely possible. Our accounting software will put us into that digital age, allow us to leverage the uses of AI in order to make our accounting process super solid. Now, there are tons of software out there. At Books by Access, we use QuickBooks exclusively, but there's many others. And I'm sure they all offer the same features and tools, but we will specifically focus on QuickBooks here in this video today. One thing it allows us to do is to implement and follow generally accepted accounting principles. Just the baseline, we want to follow the rules. QuickBooks will allow us to do that. Inside of your accounting software is something called a chart of accounts. And let's just consider that to be a list of the different types of accounts that any business, any nonprofit would ever need. Accounts related to assets, liabilities, equity, income, expenses, period, right? So it creates a structure around that. And you can rename those accounts to make sure that the names of the account is appropriate to the actual activity that takes place in your specific service or and business as a whole. Next, now this is where the fun part gets into play. It's probably not as fun for you as it is for me, but for me, it's the integrations. And QuickBooks integrates means it plays friendly with the data from one system funnels into QuickBooks in a very seamless way. So if you're running payroll in any type of payroll software, that data can funnel its way right into QuickBooks with some simple mapping, and we can set that up for you. It integrates with your bank. All your bank data can come straight into QuickBooks. Any payment system. So if you are collecting payments through your client management software, through Stripe, Square, Shopify, whatever, it integrates with QuickBooks. I can tell you with very much confidence, unless they just made it yesterday, it integrates with QuickBooks. Once the feed is coming through, you can now retreat to what they call the bank feed, bank transactions. That's a list of all the transactions that happened at the bank that automatically came in through that integration, and we can code those to their respective places. Then there's the AI tool. AI within the accounting software allows QuickBooks to kind of remember what you told it last time and make that recommendation next time. So before you accept new transactions, QuickBooks will try to predict where that transaction belongs. And if you've been putting it in the right place and it's coming from the same places, QuickBooks is really good about being able to figure out where the appropriate place is. Now, it's not a perfect system. It has its limitations. This is when a good bookkeeper, Books by Access, will come into play because we not only know the software, we know accounting rules, we understand the intricacies, so we can ensure that everything's done accurately. But aside from that, QuickBooks actually makes it really easy. You have your standard reports and your custom reports. That's your balance sheet, your income statement, your statement of cash flows, your report on who owes you, and the report on who you owe. And then the reports kind of grow from there, and then you can customize them and you can search on different fields, and it runs the full gamut. But everything you need is in QuickBooks, and they have their different subscription levels and what features you get with each of those. And we can definitely walk you through selecting the right service. But your accounting software is going to be a game changer for tracking and the reporting of the ins and the outs of your business. There's another couple of tools that I kind of want to touch on that to me is what really is a game changer for accounting software. One is uploading documents. On every transaction, you can upload supporting documents. On every customer, on every vendor, you can upload supporting documents. That is important, especially if you have someone else on your team helping you, making sure that there is proof behind the transaction. It's not just a willy-nilly. If you were ever audited, and I know that's a negative and that's not something we want to think about, but it's a reality. Out of individuals, small, large business, large corporations, nonprofits, the most likely candidate for an audit is someone with a small business. Having that supporting documentation and having a practice of keeping track of those bank statements and those contracts and those receipts and using your software to track that, there will be no transaction you cannot prove if that becomes a practice for your financial management system. The other thing I want to touch on is class tracking, project tracking. You can add attributes to every line item, right? So every transaction, we'll call that a line item, you can add attributes. You can attribute income or expense to a customer or a project. You can attribute any income or an expense to a class, and you can define a class by the services that you provide. You can even attribute location. Let's say you could turn the location into, you have like 4 people on your team doing the same thing. You could add that. They even have custom fields where you can add a different attributes to track as much data as you could possibly imagine on a specific line item. When we get into number 3, we'll talk about why some of that's super important, but pin that in your mind, class and project tracking, and we will revisit that soon. The reports that come out of QuickBooks are going to give you a financial snapshot. It's going to show you your income and expenses for a specific period of time. All right. And so that's also important when we start thinking about having to produce reports. Let's say you're a trucking company and they are asking for financial reports in order to write your new policy. Pull straight from QuickBooks. You're working with your bank to apply for a line of credit or increase your line of credit. Pull a report from QuickBooks. As long as the data is up to date and everything is organized up to a certain point, you can pull a report and trust that the data is correct. When you log into your bank, I know you do. You're logging into your bank every day. You've replaced some of your social media time with logging into the bank and looking at your cash balance. We're not using that as our accounting system. That's just one thing we do to make sure that the transactions are reflective of what we've expected. We noticed that bank balance is different from the balance in QuickBooks. That's because the balance in QuickBooks should be very accurate because it's a record of things that have happened but have not necessarily cleared the bank. So we want to be able to look at those 2 numbers. And that brings us to number 2. And number 2 is cash flow management. Now, not to be confused with cash flow statement, and the cash flow statement has its purposes. However, when we're really talking about our cash position, it's more than just what the cash flow statement provides. This is when we might step out of QuickBooks and jump into Excel for this type of a service. So number 2 is cash flow management. Now, why is that important? It's important because we want to understand with the cash we have right now, maybe the cash we know is coming, the cash we know is going, how long do we have? How healthy is our cash flow? In order to figure this out, we want to, let's say we're just working with 1 month. We want to take our true cash balance. Remember, that's the cash balance that includes those pending and soon to be items that have not necessarily cleared. We want to take that true balance and we want to add in all the income we know is coming. We may have contracts that we're in the middle of. We've received the deposit. We're in progress. We have payments coming. We may have new contracts that will start soon. We have payments that we're expected to receive. We may have a refund that's due that's going to impact cash in a positive way. We have lots of known information. So let's true balance, add in all those income details that we know are going to increase our cash. Under that, we want to do the same thing with expenses. Chart out those recurring and fixed costs that we know we have to pay for this period of time, for this month. And then we also want to include, let's throw in some of the things we know we want to do. subtract the two, net cash, right? Subtract the two, we get net cash. We now know how much cash we will have at the end of said month. We'll take that net cash for the end of said month and make it the starting balance for the next month. Repeat, rinse and repeat. Do that for the quarter, do that for 6 months, do that for a year. Use that as a measure of your cash flow, right? How long will the cash I have right now last the business? Once we understand our cash flow health, we can make decisions based off of that. Maybe we have really healthy margins. We have really healthy cash flow. That means that it's time to reinvest. Let's max out our retirement accounts. Let's invest back into the marketing of the business. Let's outsource. Let's hire. Let's use that cash so it's not just going to the IRS and taxes. We want to leverage the healthy cash flow that we have to ensure that we grow the business. But maybe we have a cash flow problem. Maybe it's not a revenue problem. It's a cash flow problem because of timing. We have bills that are due before the cash is received. So to avoid late fees and other nuisance expenses, we may reach out to the bank with the statements that we pulled out of QuickBooks to apply for a line of credit. And that line of credit is going to allow us to float those expenses while we wait for the payments. Maybe we get a credit card and we remove all those fixed subscriptions and we allow the credit card to grow the points. And as the cash comes in, we pay the credit card, we pay the line of credit. We have now eliminated the timing issue that we had in the cash flow issue. Now we've talked about our accounting software. We've talked about how we can manage our cash flow. Next, but not finally, because there's so many other levers and tools that we have in our arsenal of financial management, but today we're only talking about 3. We want to touch on profitability analysis. After we really understand, the cash coming in and out of our business, it is the process of breaking down revenue and costs, just breaking it down to its fundamental parts. It helps us identify if a service is profitable or not. So remember back when we were talking about our accounting software, we were talking about QuickBooks, and we talked about all the attributes that you can add to a line item, like attributing it to a specific project or a specific customer or a specific salesperson or a service line. All of that data that we're tracking in QuickBooks is going to lead us into profitability analysis. When you can see how much, let's just say a customer is bringing in the door, how much it costs to service that customer, and what's left, that's your profit. You can then look at some of the non-financial details and identify how profitable is that customer with respect to other customers who are receiving the same service. And if that customer is distracting you from profitability because of perhaps rework, you could even think about how you acquired that customer in the first place. Maybe you acquired them through a social media ad. Maybe you acquired them through membership of a certain organization. You can look at those profits and identify, after making the investment, how many customers paid me back for the initial investment. We could use that data to identify your service mix. Maybe you're offering a lot of something that's not as profitable as something else. Maybe there's opportunity to upsell. There is something that can be said about having a true picture of not just the overall profit, but the profit down to the customer, to the service area, to the location. All of that can be tracked in QuickBooks. Taking us right back to number 1. As we revisit what we discussed today, we talked about the need for accounting software, and so many different pieces of today's conversation pointed us back to the need for QuickBooks. We talked about cash flow management. Cash is king, cash is queen, whichever one. We need cash to operate, and we need to understand the timing of that cash, and we need to understand where it's coming from, where it's going, and how long will the cash we have last. We need to talk about profitability because that dives into what we're actually offering and what type of return we're getting on those services. If any of that sounds good to you, but you really don't have time to build that structure, we here at Books by Access can help. Again, my name is Candace. We provide accounting, bookkeeping, and CFO advisory services, all of that leading into an operation that is flourishing, an operation that has efficiencies. And if that sounds good to you, you can visit us at booksbyaccess.com. You can schedule a free consultation. We will dive into what your needs are, what your goals are, identify where we can serve as that outsourced accounting arm for your business in order to support the goals that you have for your entrepreneurship journey. Have a great day.